Okay, we are live. We're going to be analyzing a deal that one of our community members submitted to us. Let's see. All right, I think we can get the screen up. Okay, and if any of you guys want to see the full screen version, you guys can always look at this in youtube.com/ICan't_HE. So this deal got submitted to us. I think he got it from a wholesaler that might be getting it locked in. I don't know what's going on with the situation, but I'm just taking the numbers and I'm just doing it for fun and doing it for practice. So what they are doing is saying this property is listed at 337. It might be a potential sub 2 deal. Underlying mortgage is 308,000. The principal and interest 1684. This sub 2 loan amount is 308,030. So let's just go ahead and try to plug in some of these numbers after I look at this from just pictures. Now, keep in mind, I am only looking at this from the photos. I have not walked the property. Someone just asked for a quick glance and help them set up the underwriting file. So that's all I'm doing. I have no idea if my numbers are going to be accurate on this one, but I'm just taking his assumptions and just going through what I see going on in the photos. So if I can pull up the photos and let's see, it looks like this kitchen is decent. I don't really need to renovate this property. Looks like I can probably get one room out here in the back, and that could be one extra room there. So this is a 4-bed. So this was what I was looking at. So this is the bedroom. So that's definitely one bedroom. This is the bathroom. Bathroom was okay. Up to you on whether or not you want to replace the flooring in these bedrooms. This bedroom looks fine. So it looks like paint and carpet for the most part. Let's see if I can see anything else. Okay, there's an attached garage. So if you guys ever watch our Padsplit interview with Eunice, he's a OG Padsplit account executive, and he talked about converting a garage into a additional bedrooms here. I just don't know what the measurements here. Maybe you can get one bedroom, maybe you can get two bedrooms in here. But let's assume best case scenario, you can get two bedrooms in there. And I think you can get one more bedroom right there. If you look at the back right there, that's probably the living room. And it lines nicely. Let's see if I can get a closer look. Okay, so that must have been the kitchen. And this must be the bedroom area that you can potentially add an additional bedroom here. So I'm going to go on a whim and say this property max is probably going to be about a 8-bedroom, assuming you convert the garage into an 8-bedroom property. That's just my gut. So let's go ahead and analyze this deal, and we're going to plug in some numbers. And what he already told me, and I have not verified this with a Padsplit rep. I'm only going through what the gentleman has submitted to me from our affordable housing real estate community. And he says that the occupancy here is about 76%. And the average room prices are about $173 per week. Okay. If you guys want, you guys should sign up for a Padsplit account and either request Ray Nunez or Blake Lewis, which is two of the Padsplit reps that I've had on our affordable housing real estate investing podcast. And you will probably learn a ton of gems from them, from the folks that were on that podcast. Now, here is the sub 2 deal. So let's see, P&I, taxes. Wow. Is that a typo? $3,000 for taxes? No, that must have been a typo on their part. Let's see what happens. TX insurance, 378. I don't know where that number came from. He just seems like he must have copied and pasted it. I'll double check on those numbers. But outstanding principal, 308. So the purchase price for this property, 337. And the purchase price is 319. Okay. All right. Let's talk through it. Let's pull up a spreadsheet. I'm going to pull this to the side again. If you guys want to watch this on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@Kent_HE 319-330.44. Okay. Average weekly rate. This is going to be based off of 8 bedrooms. And I'm going to assume this is $170 per week. 8 bedrooms, 0. That equals to $1,360 a week. Now at 76% occupancy, I'm going to assume that this is equals 52 times 0.78. Oops. Sorry. Equals 52 times 0.78. And I'm doing this trying to figure out what my number is going to be. So 40 weeks. So I'm going to do 40 and a half weeks here for booked weeks as my occupancy. And let's kind of plug in some numbers. Property taxes. I'm assuming this is an annual number, 3336. Let's do 3336. Homeowners insurance. Personal mortgage insurance. Where is the insurance number? As you can tell, this is not rehearsed. Just simply doing the work. Oh, here we go. 113. Let me use these numbers instead. I don't know why there was two separate locations. Equals 113 times 12. I'm going to add another 20% premium. Just sometimes investment property insurance is a little bit more expensive. Property taxes, 266 equals 266.87 times 12. That gets me to 3202, which is kind of similar to 3306. That's probably fine. So I got my taxes, got my insurance. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at renovations. So I've typically looked at some straightforward conversions without any big sort of renovations, usually around 50 to 55 to 60-ish. So I'm going to leave this one at like 55 grand. This assumes that there's some garage conversion in there. This might actually be, to be honest with you, this might be low, especially if you're doing a garage conversion, and especially if you might be doing a permitting process for your garages to turn it into livable space. I don't care about the square footage right now, so I'm just going to leave that as is. Let me see if I can pull it up just so I can calculate it. 1771. 1771. Closing costs at 2.5%. For my down payment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys what the total cash outlay is going to be. So in this one, they're saying the total cash outlay. Let me kind of write all this out for you guys. So cash outlay. I'm going to put this at the bottom because sometimes this might get a little complicated. There is a recoverable corporate advance. So sometimes when sellers have a down payment assistance program and they sell it off before it, they need to repay what they owe. So 15,692. So in order to take this entire loan over or buy this property subject to, you have to pay off what were the previous obligations. 15,692. 692. What else we got? We have, is there an assignment fee? Let's see. Closing costs, 8425. 8425. Cash to seller, $2,000. So the seller wants to walk over $2,000 in his pocket. That's very common sometimes when you have a seller that can't get the price that they're looking for, but they want to sell it for market price. So the only way that you can get a price that you're looking for is by selling your property with the underlying loan, which is also valuable in itself sometimes. 9300.89, 9300.89. Out of pocket 35,417. 35,417. Okay, cool. So that is basically your cash out of hand before you include total 35,417. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to do equals 35. I'm going to equals the sell down here because that's my total cash outlay. And that includes adding my remodeling costs, some furnishing costs. I'm going to bump up furnishing costs to roughly about $1,000 a bedroom. So make sure I keep that in there. Let's see, 121. And I'm assuming 5 months of mortgage reserves while I renovate the property, because if I'm setting up garage or I'm not going to rent out the place until my garage is fully set up, then I need to have some holding costs in there just in case something happens. What if something happens with the permitting delays on the garage conversion? You never know what might happen. So I'm just being ultra conservative here. I won't lie. $170. Okay, let's go through some of the expenses. So we got property taxes in there earlier. We have 8% for property management. I typically charge my partners 2% for asset management, but if we want, we delete that number, assuming that you might be owning the property yourself and running everything yourself. We have pad split fees, which includes the swipe fees at 14.75%. Bookkeeping, I typically have a third-party bookkeeper that charges me about $225 per month to look after the books for the LLC. Now, if you don't do that or you want to keep the books yourself, that might not necessarily be applicable to you. So completely up to you on how these expenses work. I like to include these expenses because they are real expenses and they are operating expenses. Sometimes people leave out bookkeeping. Sometimes people leave out the expenses for LLC filings, especially if you have 8 to 10 people living in the same house. Generally, there might be a little bit more risk with more headcount, like moving in and out of the property. So you want to make sure you are protected. Again, I'm not an insurance agent. This is not insurance advice, but I feel a lot better. So right now I got $300 for electric, $180 for lawn and cleaning, $50 for internet. These might be plus or minus a few dollars. So definitely use your own discretion when you're estimating these expenses. Maintenance and admin, I have this right now at roughly around 1.5% on my thing, and that equals to only $800 a year. I think that's actually pretty light, but hey, I've already bumped up all my expenses in other areas, so let's kind of see what it kind of rolls out to. And to me, if I turn my interest rate here to 5%, which is what the sub 2 loan was, right? 5%. Okay. This is about a 4.3% cash on cash return. Pull this number over here. So let's see. If the average is 40 weeks, 40.5 weeks, this equals to 55K. And this equals to 4.3%, 4.4% cash on cash return. You can kind of see that number right here. And I'm just going to go through my analysis. So what if this 42 weeks? 42. I don't want to be too optimistic, but let's see. If you say you did a better job, and let's say you put in like a personal refrigerator in each one, maybe you get to 43 weeks. Let's be a little bit more optimistic. At 58K, 58.5K, this would equal to a 6.5% return. And then what if I go worst case? How about 38 weeks? 38 weeks. $2.2% cash on cash return. Whoops, 2.2. And now this is a 51.7K gross revenue. So that's how I go through my analysis. And I assume that, hey, this is $319,000, assuming that this is a sub 2 rate at 5%. Yep, 5% interest rate. So to me, this isn't really a deal because that's outside of my return criteria. My investors are looking for 17.5% cash on cash return. So for me, this is just not a deal for me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a deal for anybody else. So hopefully this was helpful. Typically, I would probably go deeper into the renovations, but I have another spreadsheet for the rehab calculator. If this was helpful, you can definitely DM me at Invest with Kent He to get some of these numbers. Now, here's the flaws with the sub 2 deals, right? Sometimes you might assume like, oh, it's a sub 2 deal, so it has to be a deal. But if you add in all of the expenses, is this really a deal? Now, typically what I see are the traps here is if for some reason someone says, hey, the LLCs don't apply to me, boom. The bookkeeping expenses don't apply because I'm going to keep track of everything else. Well, now all of a sudden, what does your numbers look like? Now all of a sudden at 40.5 weeks, you might say that's a 6.3% cash on cash return. At 43 weeks, it's an 8.45 return. I don't know if that's really accurate. Some people might say, well, what if I turn one of the bedrooms into an ensuite with its own bathroom right next to the water heater? Could you do that? Yeah, you could, but there's a long way for me to try to mess with a number just to force this deal to be a deal. And unless you can get an extra room or two and then add an extra bathroom, you have to correspondingly increase the expenses. Because if you go to a 10 bedroom, you better allocate at least 10 grand for another bathroom in there at the minimum. And you might put that extra bathroom in there just through the garage area right next to the water heater, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. And I don't think you really want to put in 10 full bedrooms in there because it's only a 1,700 square feet home. If it was a lot bigger, like at least 2,200 square feet or something like that, maybe you might consider it. But I just didn't see any space in the pictures. Now, if you walk the property and all of a sudden you see some other areas where you can carve out extra room, maybe that makes sense. But that is not my style. So at this point, this for me is not a deal. But yeah, so I do this every single day. I go live on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. Would really appreciate it if you guys can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It's called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. That is our podcast name. As part of my daily habit, I try to underwrite a deal every single day, and hopefully this brings you guys a ton of value in terms of getting practice, looking at how I underwrite. But I'm not saying I'm the best at underwriting. I'm simply saying this is what I am doing. Ross, you asked about swipe fees. It's the credit card swipe fee, FYI, if you're still watching. And the credit card swipe fees is 2.75 or 2.25, one of those numbers. I forget what exactly it was. But overall, it adds up to 14.75%. And that's what Passplit charges as a platform fee for you to list a home on their platform. It's similar to how Airbnb charges like service fees and stuff like that. It's just like a tack on and how they make money serving as the marketplace between a buyer and a seller. In this case, it's a host and a member of that Passplit LLC. Cool. Hopefully this was full, but this was not a deal for me personally. Doesn't mean that, hey, maybe I didn't make some mistakes. Maybe I was too conservative on the numbers, but I think you guys get the gist. Look at the photos, get the rental assumptions. I typically like to validate and verify my rental assumptions with a realtor who knows Padsplits, with a Padsplit rep who can do a deeper dive into the stats. So you guys can just check out the Padsplit referral link that I have down here so that you guys can get access directly to your Padsplit rep. And thank you for supporting the podcast that way. We don't make any money on the podcast, so thank you. I appreciate your support. Padsplit fee varies per market. No, they do not. They are flat across all the markets. Good question there, Ross. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Good stuff, everybody. Thank you so much. Have an amazing night. This is Monday night, just a little bit later, and do this every day. Tune in and check out any of the live recordings in the YouTube channel's chat history. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, everybody.